Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Metal Magdalene with Jet right here on Metal Messiah Radio. Today we have with us a special guest back on the show. We have Ben of Goatwhore. Welcome to the show, Ben.
Thank you very much. Glad to be a part of it.
So, Ben, tonight we're here to talk about your new album, Vengeful Ascension, out June 23rd on Metal Blade Records. How many years have you been with Metal Blade now, Ben?
Oh, shit. I know this is our fifth release with them, so
a long time.
Otherwise, huh?
A long time you've been with them.
Yeah. It's been quite some time. I'd say I'm trying to think of when we actually. Let's see. When did Haunting Curse come out? 2006, somewhere like that. Mm-hmm. Close to like 10, 11 years.
Wow. So it's been a pretty good relationship.
Yeah, everything's been kind of running pretty smooth.
So tell us really quick, what's the current lineup of the band?
The current lineup of the band is Sammy Due on guitar and vocals, myself on vocals, Zach Simmons on drums, and as far as bass goes, on the record, our bass player from the previous two records, James Harvey, played on the newest one, but we have a current bass player. His name's Transam, we call him, or TA. He plays bass when we go out on tour right now because James, he has family obligations and stuff like that. And, I mean, we don't know what the future holds as far as things go with that, but both of the guys do an amazing job. And right now we're kind of, I guess we have two bass players. We have a studio guy and a touring guy.
Well, that's cool. At least you have a spare.
Yeah, I mean, it's always good, man. It's always good. And it's kind of like, I guess it's like a limbo stage, because we don't know what's going to happen with James, but, you know, in the future might hold where it comes to the point where James can't really record anymore or do anything depending on his family obligations, and then, you know, TA will definitely fall into place perfectly with it.
Okay, so getting back to your album now, you mentioned I was reading all the little bios and all your little quotes before I called you. So you mentioned for this album that we wanted it raw and we wanted it organic. So explain to us what that means in pertaining to this album.
Well, it's more or less like we wanted more of like a raw element, like how we are live. Mm-hmm. You know, we definitely can't. We won't ever be able to duplicate our live setting. Mm-hmm. On a record at all. That's definitely like a personal experience for us and the fans at each one of those shows. You know, but you can take the element of the sound that comes out of the PA in a live setting, and it's got this more raw angle to it, and that's what we wanted to kind of get to, the more raw, organic sound of that live setting. And also by the means of going on to tape, 2-inch tape, doing analog, recording everything like that, and not just having it all digital like most of the stuff that's pretty much done nowadays. So, you know, those elements will assist in the fashion too. And then we've also had our sound engineer, Jarrett Pritchard, who also does studio records. He's done like 1349, he's done the last two gruesome records, he's currently working on a new Zoom record, and so he has knowledge in the studio as well as live, but he's done us live so much, he is probably one of the most people familiar with what we sound like coming out of the PA. I mean, he's the one that's working the magic for us, the way we come out of the PA for the audience. So he would kind of have the idea of what kind of direction we need to head in for that. So we had him involved in getting the tones, you know, working on the tones with us and everything like that, and then recording everything down, and he was like the engineer producer, and then from there, we took everything and went to Chris Common to mix it. And Chris Common actually he doesn't do many metal releases, but he does, you know, things, you know, like he's done Pelican, he's done Chelsea Wolf, he's done little bits and pieces here. He did some little Melvins things. So he's familiar with, I guess, like a rock or a heavy element, but not really, you know, a full-on heavy metal band. And so it was really cool the way he approached it, and him, you know, getting input from Pritchard as far as, you know, his experiences of what we sound like, and them working together to kind of work that out. You know, that was just another step as well. I mean, this whole record, we went in a whole different direction because the last 4 records we did with Eric Rutan, and they were all great records. I just think that it was time for us to kind of bend and go a different little path and see how it turned out. You know, I mean, it's always a risk. You never know how it's going to go. But I think by the end of it, I felt really good about it. I felt, you know, everybody did a great part in it, and the element is just the next step and the next evolution of what this band is going for. You know, and I really do think that there's room, you know, like I've said it before that, you know, we still have room to grow and stuff like that. I don't think we've hit our so-called peak yet. Mm-hmm. And some people might say, well, you know, if you haven't hit your peak yet, why do you just put stuff out? And it's like, I mean, I don't know what the future holds. That's the thing. None of us do.
Right.
So I just feel like the peak hasn't got there yet. I'm not saying anything we've done is bad. I just don't think that we've hit that point yet. Like, you know, like when Slayer put out Rain and Blood and South to Heaven, there was a peak there. There was a moment where it was like, holy shit, this band paved the way for bands forever in this style of music. Mm-hmm. You know, and I mean, Slayer's still doing stuff and they're still putting out releases. They're just a point, I think some bands, they get and they hit a peak, and that's the element of that record is such a game-changing thing within, you know, extreme music or whatever type of music that they're involved in. And I just don't think we've actually hit that peak, but we're still working there and going towards that goal. I just think maybe we're a little slow in our evolution process, you know, but I really like the fact of looking back at older releases and seeing how we've evolved as musicians and songwriters and, you know, what we do and how everything works now. And I'm really happy with the way the whole new record came out. I'm really happy how it represents us as a whole now at this point. Definitely when we get down the line, we're going to do the next record, and we're going to look at taking the next step and try to get even closer at that point. So there's always that goal. You always have that goal, and you keep pushing that edge further and further and further each time.
Now, this is the second album that you're doing this way, right?
Yes, we did do Constricting Rage like this as well. It's just that now, the thing is, like, every engineer and every producer hears things in their own element, you know? I mean, you have the band, and you have the band that's like, yeah, I have this, you know, we sound like this and we do this, but then it's another individual that is like, that has the reins on everything, and they're taking it to the element to present it, you know? Mm-hmm. And they're the people that have the knowledge in it and everything. I mean, like, I couldn't record a band. I don't know half of the shit that goes on with it, and that board with all those fucking knobs, I have not a clue, you know? Mm-hmm. But, I mean, I know little tidbits here and there, but there's no way I'd never be able to do that. You know, and that's what that person's there for, but that person has an ear for certain things. And sometimes when you change them, that changes the way a band is projected, you know? So bands go to different engineers, different producers, and do stuff, and it definitely changes things with the way the band is projected via, you know, the CD, the vinyl, whatever format that it's put onto. So, but yes, this was the second time we've done the real 2-inch. But two, there's an element, you know, some people might notice, some people might not notice, but we definitely notice, you know, the tones you get going onto tape and the tone of actually miking up a speaker to a guitar cabinet rather than using like some kind of thing like Axe Effects or a Kemper or something like that. You know, there's all these different elements that account for it, and we're so much into like older metal like Judas Priest, Black Sabbath, Venom, Celtic Frost. And those bands all recorded in that way back in the day. And those records still sound so powerful in so many ways nowadays. You know, so it's like you still want to be able to utilize that and capture that overall sonic quality and present it and have it represent you as a band.
How long does it take to do something like that, to record that process?
It doesn't really take, I mean, it's a little harder now because things are getting more and more obsolete as that goes. So when things break, you kind of run into little walls here and there, and that's luckily enough, Jared has knowledge with the tape machine. And then what we're doing with Eric Rutan, he had knowledge with the tape machine. And like sometimes we ran into little issues, but they sorted it out fairly quick. Sometimes it puts a little dent in a day. Sometimes it puts maybe just a dent for an hour or whatever. It might wreck a whole day, but you just we were in the studio for about 3 weeks when we did all of this.
Oh, that's not bad.
It was just this process of, tracking, we focus on the drums first, and then we go in and do all the guitars, and then the bass, and then the vocals, and then we go back and, add solos and different things like that. And, it's not really that big a difference. It's just that it's tape's so finicky because it is an older process that sometimes you just have to take your time with it. So it's like something you definitely can't rush. And I know this day and age, budgets are a huge concern. There's not many records being sold as they were in the past. So bands only have so much money to spend, so they have to go to whatever means. So we just, we take what we can with the budget and we try to sort it out and make it work the best we can. So we kind of crunch numbers and we do things like that to make everything able to kind of sort out. Even if we have to put money out of our own pocket for the situation, sometimes we do that if we're looking to get a certain direction that we want to go in as far as the recording.
So tell us a little bit now about the lyrical content of this album, Ben.
It's a mixture of a lot of different things. Like, for me, every song that Goatwhore does is its own little individual thing. And every song is kind of its own element, too. Some songs are more, focused towards like a black metal kind of angle as far as the writing style. Some of the songs are focused more, a little bit towards thrash metal. Some of it's focused a little bit more, more traditional heavy metal. Some of it's like death metal. Some are blended. So being that way, I think each song, being its own individual like that, deserves its own individual lyrical and vocal structure. And so I try to approach it in that fashion when I'm putting things together. And I mean, all of the things I write about range from so many different things. And it's also my influence and the way I perceive things, whether it's something I read and how I kind of perceive the story, and then I put it into my own words in a sense like that, or some things I'll put together and I'll add my own angle into it. Like, I'll take what I read in the story or what the idea was, and I'll add my own angle to it. Or sometimes my stuff is like kind of tongue-in-cheek about things. Some of it's serious. But it all depends on the feeling of the music, too. Like a song like FBS from Constricting Rage. It's kind of a little bit more tongue-in-cheek when you read the lyrics and stuff like that. But it was the feeling of the song. It's how everything went along with the song. And then, if you go to another song, like the new track, Vengeful Ascension, it's a little bit more serious. It delves more into an aspect of a mixture of a lot of dark arts and dark ideas through time, like taboo things, esoteric things, and how they've always been hidden, but now they're surfacing and coming back to the top. So there's all these different little variations in there. And I don't really like to lock any of my, like even one song, I don't like to lock them into like one idea fully. Even like with the newest song they released, Chaos Arcane, based off of a story, an H.P. Lovecraft story, Nyarlathotep. But even within that, it still branches off like my ideas and my elements of that story. So I don't want people to totally lock it into something. I want them to expand on it as well. I mean, that's what reading's all about. You ever talk to somebody about, I saw this movie, I read the book too, but the book's way better. Well, yeah, when you read the book or you read something, the element of your imagination or your ideas or your beliefs add to that reading. So then your perception of it on how you see it is totally different. So when somebody locks into a grid, like in a movie, then you don't like it as much because you already read the story, you read the ideas behind it, and you had this concept in your head. You almost created the movie or the visual in your head. So I don't try to like go too deep and like tell people this is what it has to be, this is what it's about. I want the reader to read it and delve into it in that fashion.
And so you released Chaos Arcane recently as a lyric video as well as a title track. So what have been some of like the early responses so far to the album from people?
It's been really good, and it's funny because you read variations of, what people say. And the title track, too, is a little different. than, other kind of, not fully different, but, it's got slower. It's more, it sounds to me more like earlier, like heavy metal influence involved in it, So, for some people, they would listen to it, and some people, when they hear one song, they already think the whole record sounds like that. So, I mean, we had mixed. You had people say, this song sounds great, We actually played it live on the last tour we did, this tour we just finished with Amon Amarth, and it went really well. But, we had some people go, I don't know about that song really yet. And then when Chaos Arcane came out, the same person that said they were kind of on the fence about Vengeful Ascension, the title track, they heard Chaos Arcane, like, oh, okay, I hear this now. It shows you that within the record, there's going to be variation like that. But we've always had variation.
Right.
I don't want anybody to hear the one song and think that's what the whole record is, because it isn't.
No,
there's more element to it, and there's so many different facets going on within extreme music that you have to listen to the whole thing, and it's represented by the whole and not just one. So it's cool when, like, they're going to release another song, like, right before the record comes out. So there'll be 3 tracks out basically before the record drops. And that's another, aspect of the stuff that we do. And it's cool because then it shows people, it's like, there's not just this one song, and then if people think we might have half of people that are into it, half be kind of thrown away from it. It's starting to show you, oh, well, then there's this song, and then there's this song. So then the interest starts to get crazy because people are like, well, they got this variation. I want to see what goes on with the entire record.
Right, and then you're going to release that third one, and then they're not going to be able to control themselves, and they're going to have to buy it to see what's going on with the rest of the record.
I guess that's what we hope happens.
So tell us a little bit about the cover art and the artist, too, Ben, and what the art represents.
The cover art was done by a good friend of ours, Jordan Barlow. He did the last 2 records. He did Constricting Rage and the Merciless, and he did Blood for the Master. Those records are more focused on, like, kind of woodcut, more, black and white, harsh kind of imagery. And on the new record, we did more of, like, a shaded, like, watercolor kind of thing, but just from dark tones to mid-tones to light tones, things like that, with a lot of shading, a lot of depth to it. It was actually a big piece. It was 3 feet tall by about 2 feet wide.
Wow.
And we didn't want to, there's a lot going on in it because the actual cover of the CD only has, and the vinyl only has a portion of the entire piece. So when you get the actual vinyl and the CD, the cover folds out.
Oh, nice.
The vinyl, there's a poster that's involved with it. And with the CD, it slides out, and the cover is a quarter of the 6-panel picture.
Wow.
So it flows down, and there's, like, basically at the bottom of it's like this hole or a pit in a sense, and all these things are coming out of it to the pinnacle of this like skeletal figure that's holding this eclipsed sun with the sigil of Lucifer in it. And it's got all of these elements intertwined in the figure from the bottom coming up. And it goes back to all these different, like, old, like, literature stuff, from H.P. Lovecraft stuff to, books on the dark arts to, Dante's Inferno, Milton's Paradise Lost, all these different elements, like the woodcuts that Gustave Doré did, the elements of, like, Erroneous Bosch, the images of hell and stuff like that. But everything's coming out instead of, it's almost like the reverse mouth of hell. Instead of everything going in and going to somewhere that's supposed to be this dreadful place, everything's surfacing and coming out. And everything's going up to a pinnacle, to a point. Almost like everything is hidden. It's always under this veil and hidden from everyone and made and stifled. Almost just like extreme metal. Like no one, it's always this source that's underneath, but it's bubbling up, and it's growing, it's overflowing, and then it's finally going to come out. And, metal does it all the time. Everybody, it always goes through these phases where people are like, metal's dead, oh, it's doing this, oh, it ain't doing that. It's always been there. It's always been there since the inception. It's just sometimes it's below the layers, and it's reinventing itself. It's doing different things. It's remolding itself, and it's taking different paths, and the roots of it are growing deeper and going in different directions, and there's so many variations to it. And then at points it finally breaks through that surface and it starts coming out, and people start picking up on it, and people, they go after it. So, it's an element of all those different things, and how everything, it's got an element of personal, emotional conflict, being at the bottom of something and then fighting your way back to the top. Even like in the story, like Milton's Paradise Lost, Lucifer being cast, and then he's down, but he has this goal to get back to the peak again, to the pinnacle, to the top. And it's always this element. It's like a story of perseverance, retribution, revenge, whatever you want to put it. But it starts with this emotion like that, like revenge or vengeance, and then as you're working your way back up to the top, there's like an enlightenment to this ascension that you're taking, and you see it. But all of this is coming up so rapidly, and everything's moving so fast. So there's a lot of elements involved in that, and it's all put into the artwork, and it's all intertwined and climbing up. So when you have the artwork and you open the whole thing up, you can see all of these elements that are combined. There's like little figures climbing up, things wrapped around that are going to the top of this skeletal figure. So there's a lot of mixture going on there, just like the music, just like the lyrics, just like what we do.
And now you mentioned like a poster and the vinyls, opening up, the folds opening up. So what are some of these pre-orders that people could pick up? I mean, just looking through this stuff really quick, there's like candles and books and all that. So what do you got going on for pre-orders?
Oh, they got like a bunch of different stuff, man. Like, I think the biggest one is like there's the vinyl, the CD, and then there's like this spell book thing, and it has the CD, but it has an extra CD with like live material and some unreleased like cover tracks that we had done, and then or tracks that were like limited back in the day.
Right.
They're on this disc now. And then like a shirt, and there's like a candle thing. There's all kinds of like little different things like that. The CD and the vinyl, no matter what you do, if you buy, even if you didn't get you aren't going to get a bundle, and you just get the CD or the vinyl, there's still the element of the poster and the vinyl.
Cool, yeah.
The poster and the CD, that's there because that is the full artwork. We just didn't want to smash the artwork down to a CD cover because it was so big. And it had a lot going on in it, and then once you smash it down to something small,
it loses
all the impact of the detailing.
Right.
So we just worked it out to where there is like a little poster in the CD and a poster in the vinyl to represent the entirety of the artwork. And then all the bundles are just extra things, little bonus things for people. I mean, there's a bunch of us that still collect stuff, unique that bands put out, so that's what the bundles are kind of like for the person that still likes to collect things and have things like that,
So what is that?
A lot of people don't do it, but there's a bunch of people that still do it.
Well, I do. So what is that spell book thing? Is that just like the lyrics or what's going on there?
Yeah, it's more, it's the lyrics like laid out. It's laid out a little, the book's about the size of like a CD, not CD, like a DVD case. It's about 40 pages, and when you open it, the discs are on both sides in these like little sleeves inside of the case. And then it has like it's all the lyrics with images and stuff related to the lyrics and stuff like that. It's not like we conjured up these spells, put them in there. Even though that would be really unique, but that would take a lot of time. So it was just kind of like labeled as a spell book, but more or less it's like the lyrics laid out. The lyrics look really small in the CD and everything, so it's really unique because it's presented in a more unique kind of interesting fashion.
So who did the art for that then? Is it the same person that did your cover or somebody else?
No, actually, the cover is like kind of in the inside of it and then on the back end of it, but inside of it there was a guy that Metal Blade got together, and I got with him, and we kind of put ideas together. And like, he didn't really do like every single art piece in it. Like for instance, the song "Those Who Denied God's Will," the last song on the record.
Yeah.
that song, I mean, lyrically is pretty much straight from Milton's Paradise Lost. So we put in, like, images from that Doré did of Milton's Paradise Lost.
Mm-hmm.
Gustave Doré has done tons of, like, amazing woodcuts to, like, Paradise Lost and Dante's Inferno. And there were certain images that I thought represented the basis of that song, and we kind of added them in spots. And then other songs, like Mankind Will Have No Mercy, it's a song that's kind of basis of, like, I built it off as a tribute to Bull Thrower, lyrically. You know, the song itself doesn't, like, sound like a Bull Thrower song, but on a lyrical sense, I wanted to write something that was in the vein of, like, all the, like, war-mongering things Bull Throwers had over the years. It was kind of like a little, like, it was kind of a little hat tip to Bull Thrower for when I was growing up and stuff like that. So lyrically, it has to do with, like, warmongering and stuff like that. And then, so we put together ideas of, like, old traditional warfare tools like axes and clubs and things like that. And we kind of laid them out in a certain way and used certain symbols that represented things as far as that. So it's thought out. It's not just thrown together. It's definitely thought out. Pieces are put in place to make it really unique. So, but it's definitely not like a spell book. I guess one could maybe make it into the spell book. We're really, really skilled in that fashion.
Yeah, let us know what happens.
Yeah, but I think it's a really cool thing. You know,
it is,
it's really interesting because Metal Blade brought it up, and I was like, it's a cool idea, but time was really short, and you know, if we had more time, we could have delved into way more with it. But you know, there was really a small window open to do it. But being the amount of time that was available, we really got everything put in place really nice.
Well, it looks really cool on the picture, you know. It sparked my interest, so that's why I was interested. And yeah, it's a cool collectible for sure for people that collect stuff like that. Now, hey, you guys just got done touring, like you had mentioned, with Amon Amarth. So how was that whole tour like for you guys?
That tour was great. It was really awesome. I mean, it was our fourth time touring with them. I think the first time we ever toured with Amon Amarth, it was back in 2003. And it was a tour. It was called the Art of Noise 2 tour. And it was Nile, Creator, Vader, Amon Amarth, and us.
Oh, wow.
So it was like, we were first, Amon Amarth was second. It's unique to see that, too. Like, Amon Amarth was second on a 5-package bill in 2003, and now they're like,
funny.
They're just crushing it, you know?
Yeah.
Headlining places. They're headlining places that hold 1,500 people, and it's sold out. It's fucking insane.
It is.
You know?
It's crazy.
But I mean, they've done so much work over the years since then. You know, they put out numerous records, and they've just been this machine, just going through and fucking constantly touring. You know, just kind of like we do in the States. But they've been doing it fucking worldwide. You know, and big time in Europe as well. And but yeah, so the first time we ever toured with them was like in 2003, and then we had done a Sounds of the Underground with them, and then there was another time we toured with, it was them, us, and Skeleton Witch, and now there's a fourth time, and it was just us and them, and it was awesome. Their crew's amazing. Their crew is really respectful towards us, and they're great, and the crowd was fucking awesome every night, and the crowd, you know, they took us in really well.
Nice.
So I have no complaints about the tour whatsoever. I mean, I rarely have a complaint about any tour. So, but overall, it was, you know, a lot of people are always like, well, you know, what's unique about it is when you stop and you really step back and you look. Like some nights I would ask the audience, you know, how many people's first time hearing or seeing us? And it'd be tons of people put their hand up, you know. But it goes to show you how vast and wide open the metal scene is,
right?
And the variation between styles of metal that are going on, and you know what's really popular, what's not really popular, but still something in there that you know can show itself and be up in the front. It's interesting to see that. You know, it's interesting to see that there's people that have never heard us before. You know, like you would think. You know, you think people, that's another thing like I was saying about heavy metal, like people always saying, you know, like sometimes the big industry people shun it, but it's like you don't even realize how deep the roots of this go and like how vast it is and how many people are into this stuff, you know?
Wow.
And then when you do a tour like that, and you see the variation, and you meet people, and you after you play, you might go out in the crowd a little bit, go by the merch area, hang out or whatever, or just hang out by the bar, and people come up and they're like, "We've never seen you before. Can't believe this." But it goes to show you too, there's a lot of fucking bands out there.
Oh yeah.
You know, people only have so much money. They only have so much time. You know, and they can't listen and go to every fucking show.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's a lot of things going on. So tours like that are really unique because they do put you out in front of these people that are unfamiliar with you, but they're really open about what's going on. You know, so it definitely opens your eyes a lot to how things are.
And you got a lot of stuff still coming up this year, including a tour that they just announced not too long ago with Venom. So tell us about the stuff you got coming up, Ben.
Let's see. We actually start up for 3 weeks on June 9th. We're going out to the West Coast with us and Ancients.
Mm-hmm.
We're doing some dates we start in San Antonio on June 9th, and then we do dates going out west and go up the coast to Seattle to do the Northwest Terror Fest.
Oh, nice.
And then we go into Western Canada for like 5 shows, and then come back out to Minneapolis and a few other places, head back home. So we'll be out for like 3 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
We won't be doing much for pretty much most of July, and definitely nothing in August. And then in September we go out with Venom Incorporated, us, Toxic Holocaust, and that lasts through all of September into the beginning part of October. And also another band's on that too, the Convalescents.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's 4 bands on that tour. So we do that, and that's actually that tour. It's important for us in so many different ways because, when we first started, Venom, Celtic Frost, all that stuff was a huge influence for us.
Right.
So it's, that's definitely unique in that. But it's also unique, too, because we'll have a new record out in full 2 months beforehand that people can get familiar with, and so then we can start presenting more songs in a live setting from that record mixed in with older material.
Have you ever played
and then, throughout the rest of the year, everything's still kind of up in the air. We need to work out plans to get back out to Europe, other places overseas. So the ball's just starting to get rolling.
So have you ever played with any of the guys in Venom before?
We played with Venom back a ways with the Kronos fronted Venom.
Okay, wow, yeah.
Okay, so we played with the actual Venom.
Yep.
Oh, I wouldn't say actual because Kronos was the only original member
right.
was in it when we played with him. But still, that's awesome. Like I remember there was a show we played, and we were there early, and he was just kind of hanging out. And we actually sat down, and he kind of talked to us, and he would tell stories and stuff, and it was fucking cool. There was nothing shitty about him at all. It's awesome when you meet somebody that you were growing up listening to, and now you're sitting here and he's telling you stories about when he was younger and when they did, all their records, and things that went on, and it was fucking really cool. But, now we're touring with the other 2 members, the other 2, quote-unquote, original members of Venom, So, and it's fucking really cool. It's like it comes full circle completely at this point. So
you got to play with all of Venom, just not all in the same band.
Yeah, exactly. So, I'm really not even complaining about that.
No, because it's still Venom. Yeah, no, I know exactly what you're saying. It's still, great music. It's going to be a great tour, and I know people are really, really looking forward to it. And Ben, I think we covered just about everything. And again, the new album from Goatwhore, Vengeful Ascension, out June 23rd on Metal Blade Records. And you can learn more about the different formats at the Metal Blade site and learn more about the band and what they have going on up at their official Facebook page. And Ben, as always, thank you so much for taking the time to come on the show and tell us about the new album and what you got going on. And all the best to you and the band.
No problem. Thank you very much. And we will see either everybody in June or we'll see everybody else in September.